Hello everyone, well welcome back to the channel, and you've joining me in the middle of January and it's blooming freezing to be honest, but what can we do? The vineyard is pretty dormant at the moment. There's not a lot to do, having done all the pruning before the end of last year. But there are one or two things we can do. We can tidy up the vineyard, we can mend the wires which I broke when I was pruning the vines. We can also do a bit of spraying just to keep that mold pressure down for when the spring comes around. But the information which I wanted to share with you today was that from an agronomist that I met up earlier on in the week. And she told me probably in about half an hour, 3 or 4 important things that I'll share with you. Okay, so the first thing that I was asked was what was our altitude in our vineyard here? Well, we're about 169 metres here, which according to her was way above what the recommended highest altitude would be for a commercial vineyard in the UK. It's about 100 metres, about 330, 350 feet. Is that right? 350 feet? Not terribly good at converting my measurements, but anyway, it's 300 and something feet above sea level. And ours is about 550 feet. So we're on a sticky wicket to begin with. Now, it's not the highest vineyard in the UK. That record is held by a vineyard up in Yorkshire, way above where we are. And that's, I think, about 880 feet, something like that. But the significance of altitude is heat, essentially. You're not getting so much temperature or heat into the grapes. And so you've got a sort of longer ripening time. And with our very short summers and you know, the darkening nights come autumn time, it can be a problem getting those grapes to ripen properly. So we're going to have to do things a little bit differently in our vineyard, I think, from now on. We haven't done disastrously in terms of getting grapes ripened. Our problem is mold, and that also ties in with temperature as well. So without further ado, I'm just going to share with you the 3 biggest tips that she gave me this year. First off, there's not a lot to say about the Rondo and the Orion varieties. They're still quite new. This is now going to be their 3rd year. They've been pruned quite nicely. They've all been tied down to the fruiting lines, and well, let's just see what happens with them this year. But our main concern is with the Bacchus ones, which I don't know if you've seen in my previous videos, were a complete and utter disaster. We basically got absolutely 0 yield off them. And so we're going to have to think of a radical strategy to try and combat the downy mildew that we suffered from this year. Now, if I just spin you around and show you a sort of fairly typical Bacchus vine that we've got growing in the vineyard. Let's just take this one here. Okay, we've got our 2 dividing canes coming off a central crown. We've got some going off in that direction, probably about, I don't know, I'll count the number of buds in a second, and similar going off in that direction. But the thing that she highlighted was this crown here. Now, I have gone round all these vines pretty quickly, to be honest, to try and get them pruned quickly. But one thing which she did point out is that I've got far too many spurs, and the vine is going to basically struggle to push out new canes from all these spurs, including trying to get fruit coming along the fruiting lines here. Really, we're going to have to sort of thin some of these down. I've got some down here, I've got some there, I've got some up here, I've got one behind there, and really that's just too many. It's going to put too much of an ask onto this vine to actually produce the you know, the amount of quality fruiting and flowers and buds and all that kind of stuff. So that's the first thing. So we're going to have to just take out a few of these. Now, probably what I'll do is decide which ones look the best, and I'd say that this little crown here looks pretty good. The ones down here, for example, a little bit too far down perhaps, but we're just going to have to get rid of these buds which are just there. So we can do this later on in the year, but what I'm going to do is basically just rub out these buds so that the vine doesn't want to put energy into producing another cane from there, another cane from there, another one round the back there. We've got lots coming here as well. So I'm just going to thin out the buds that I've left on this crown so that the vine's just got some, you know, got less to concentrate on. That's the key there. Okay, the next thing that I really wanted to share with you was the location of the spare canes for next year, and that is probably best demonstrated on this one here. Right, I'll just spin you around so I can demonstrate this really well. Okay, so on this vine we've got the two really nice, nice thick fruiting canes coming off the central crown here, and they're going to produce this year's fruit. And we've got the spare little, two-budded cane here, which will produce some nice ones for the following year. And also I've got a similar one just behind where my finger is. I don't know if you can see it just there. There's one there which is very similar. Now, what the agronomist says, you've got to imagine the sap rising from the roots coming up. It's going to develop this one here, and then the sap's going to come up. It's then going to develop these two fruiting canes here. And really, you don't want anything going above this level in an ideal world. So what I was told was that rather than having all these extra buds above here, which is just going to be a bit of a waste in terms of the vine's energy, is to snip this crown off here, or cap the crown off here, and just basically let the vine develop from everything below my hand there. So we've got the two fruiting canes there, we've got the spares here, or the spare buds here, and the other ones just behind there. So given sort of come about August, October time, I should have masses of canes coming off there, and likewise over that side. Then I can choose the two to take over for the following year. But really, we want to stop that sap rising any higher than this level here. So I'm just going to get the pruners out, snip this bit off here, and then the vine will basically be shaped everything below my hand there. Okay, well that looked pretty brutal to be honest, but not as brutal as the next thing that I'm going to say. And that is that because these Bacchus grapes had a disastrous year in 2024, we're going to actually give them a bit of a break. And the way we're going to do that is, first of all, we're going to limit the number of buds that we've got going on along the fruiting line, the fruiting canes. We're probably not going to have any more than about, I'd say probably about no more than 10, but ideally probably about 8 or 9, something like that. But more importantly, for this year, this forthcoming year, we're actually going to turn them into a single guyot training or trellis method rather than the double guyot that we've been using up until now. So the reason for that is that we want these vines to recover somewhat, and we don't want to ask them to do too much, to be honest. We want them to, whatever energy they've got in the roots and in the in the trunks and in the plant generally, we want to put all that energy and concentrate it into a relatively small number of bunches, rather than trying to get them to do too much. I think the way that it was described is that if you try and get them to run too fast, they run out of energy and they just sort of their defences are low and they get a little bit more susceptible to diseases and things like that. So for this year, maybe even the following year, we're going to basically get rid of one side. Now I'm going to leave 1 or 2 buds, and I'm just going to snip these so that I'm basically just going to choose the best side and get rid of the other one. It sounds a bit brutal, and it does mean that I've got to go through the vineyard again and just go and chopping one side. I might just have a bit of a mixture, to be honest. I might leave some double and take other ones down to a single guyot, and we'll see how that goes. Now, the next thing I wanted to tell you is how you can recognise whether the vine is struggling. Right, okay then, we've got this another vine here, and we've basically trimmed it so that it's got a lovely crown to it, and we've got 1 or 2 shoots, spare shoots below, just there, and also just the other side, which you can't quite see. We haven't got anything going above, so that actually is a really nice example of what it should like. We're developing a really nice tea to it as well. And we've got the fruiting ones. It's a little bit high, to be honest. It would have been nice if this was probably another sort of 4 inches down, but you know, beggars can't be choosers sometimes. And we're going to just chop off this side probably to make this one into a single guyot. But the one thing which I wanted to show you on this one was the damage that has been done to this vine over the year, which you can probably see. So if I just turn the camera around again, I'll just go along this fruiting line and I'll show you. Okay, so I've got the magnifying glass on the camera now, and you can sort of see the outer, I'll say it's the bark, but it's really the outer skin of the one-year-old cane. And it's got a sort of slightly mottled effect. There's nothing wrong with that. But as I go a bit further along, you'll notice that there is sort of damage to the surface of the bark there, and also places like that. And if we go a little bit further along, we notice sort of little patches like that. And this particular cane is sort of characterized by a sort of alternate sort of mottled, then to sort of slight damage like that, and then to black. And essentially this vine is struggling a little bit in terms of health. So what we're going to do is, as I say, just help it out a little bit. Okay, the last thing that I wanted to share with you was a bit of advice about fertilizer. Now, fertilizer is generally put down just before bud burst in the springtime. If you put it down now, what you tend to find is that all the nutrients just get leached out of the ground with every rainfall and things like that. So by the time the plant wakes up in springtime, all your hard work in terms of putting stuff on the ground is gone. So January is a bit too early to do anything with fertilizer really. But I'm going to try something new this year, and that is a foliar fertilizer. Beforehand, we've just put manure around the base of all the plants, but it's been a real hassle to do, as you can imagine. Trying to do that with 800 or 900 plants, putting manure down at the base of each one is hard work. So doing it with a foliar fertilizer, I can mix it in with the air sprayer alongside the fungicide spray that I put in, and basically feed the plants by spraying the fertilizer onto the leaves. That should be really, really good. But I think what I might do, and it's what I'd advise to do, is to put a nitrogen, potassium, phosphate type of fertilizer as a granular form down onto the ground, probably around about March time, just before bud burst. And then we're giving the plants some feed so that they've got some, some nutrients or whatever to get on with doing the initial bud burst. So as soon as the leaves come out, then we can start thinking about doing the foliar spray. But I'll come on to that later on in the year, and I'll post some more videos about what I've chosen and how I'm going to do that. That's the advice that I was given by the agronomist in this last week. I found it quite useful, to be honest. I hope you have too. If you have, and hit the like button and all that kind of stuff, and give me any tips and tricks that you've learnt over the years about planting your vines as well. I'll be really intrigued. I will never know enough about this game, to be honest, so we're all learning this together, I think. But anyway, I'll catch you in the next video. Have a super week, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.